Okay, let's see if we are live. Oh, hey, Marcel. Let's see. Just doing some housekeeping, gonna pop out chat and all this stuff so I can see things properly. So let me know if the audio is okay. I've changed microphone setups since last stream, so hopefully it should be good. At least this one doesn't mean I have a big microphone in my face while talking, so there's some upside to it. Thought I'd already installed my dependencies, but apparently I'm doing that now. Oh, hey, McBull. Glad the audio seems to be fine. Let's find us a browser window because that's a big part of this thing. Maybe I just do, let's see. Localhost 4000. That's the best website I know. Keep visiting it. Let's So you're gonna see me adjust some windows here. Just gonna fit that to screen. It's like a big ad, but that wasn't entirely the plan. Just gotta make sure you have some way of seeing my web server or my web view. There we go. Okay, so Marcel, I'm your first introduction into the glorious world of Livebook. It's a little bit exciting. Phoenix application still running. Did they have a special way of running Livebook? I did run Livebook previously. I'm not clear on why it's not hasn't kept my dependencies and stuff. Steps. Yeah. Aha, that's the reason. It was doing the prod thing. That's no fun. I don't want prod. Yeah, so let's go into meanwhile, I think we can run the prod version. Okay, have some people joined? Yeah, I have a good 9 people on. Should probably let them know on the Twitter that I am live. Live with Livebook. There's so much stupid joking you can do. Yeah, it's I like a subtle plug for the podcast. Now let's see. Task Phoenix server was not found because I'm in the assets. That makes sense. Yeah, this does a whole thing where you actually get a link with a token when you start it because it has a login thing. Okay, that's a very small view you get of the Livebook. I'll boost it and just apparently lose my whole face. Okay, I can be down there. There somewhere. Sweet. All right, so if you don't know what this Livebook thing is, so I'm not an Emacs guy, but oh dear, Jason Johnson has been trying to get me into Emacs, so that might end up that might actually end up happening. We'll see. He's really making a campaign of it, and it does have some appealing things. Oh, should I be science and technology? I thought I had chosen a thing already. Sure, I can be science and technology. I'm barely science and I'm barely technology, but let's go for it. Thanks. Lachlachless? I do not know how to pronounce that. That's a good sport. Yeah. Whoa, that was my plan. That was not what I wanted to move. I am a professional streamer, I'll have you know. Technically, I'm paying myself to do this. Yeah. So Marcel, I'm terribly sorry that this will be your introduction to Livebook, but hopefully it will be fun. So the idea of Livebook is to cover another use case from the data science side of the world, where in Python, most people, or many people working on big data, data science, machine learning, that sort of stuff, use something called Jupyter Notebook. And what Jupyter Notebook is and allows you to do is run, like interchangeably write documentation and run code. And mix those in a nice way. So this should allow people to do the same with NX and Elixir. It also allows anyone who's not doing data science but is doing Elixir and wants to do sort of live documentation to do some interesting stuff. So I am hopeful that this will find some interesting uses. I can imagine it being cool for onboarding, particularly. Okay, so let's call our notebook trying Livebook. Sweet. And also, no, I'm not an Emacs guy. I'm a Vim guy usually. But because I do a lot of work with other people, I find VS Code to be one of the most convenient ways of doing that, especially with LiveShare. Yeah, I guess essentially like MDX. One of the challenges with the Livebook that we will see, like, you have to run it somewhere safe and you have to protect it because it allows you to run Elixir and you can't conveniently sandbox Erlang or Elixir. Yeah, so LiveMD, this is using a format called LiveMD, and if we have time, I think we want to look at what that provides. So I can add a section, which is essentially like, oh, this is the introduction. And then I can go like, oh, I want to type some Markdown. Whoop, whoop. And Yeah, this is Markdown. I like Markdown. I wonder what the keyboard shortcuts are. I know there are some. What's ins? What's this? Choose a runtime. Oh right, there was a bunch of stuff you could do. I don't even know what this is. Start a new local node to handle code evaluation, or start a new local node in the context of a mix project. This way all your code and dependencies will be available. Yeah, this is the one I will probably be using the most. Attached node. This is also super cool. So you could have a local version of the Livebook, and as long as you can connect to another Erlang node, you could run your code on that node instead of on your local machine. So maybe you have a GPU sort of deal. Yeah, I hadn't seen those buttons before. I haven't really looked at them. But let's get to the part where we can actually run some code, maybe. So I'm curious. Now I'm gonna do the dumb stuff instantly. Let's have something that takes 5 seconds to run, and then IO puts. Hey! That seems sufficiently dumb. So now I told it to evaluate, and it's evaluating. And that took 5 seconds or so. And then it shows the output and it shows the return value, which is nice. But yeah, maybe we want to make a set of things. So we do, this is just a range. Okay, yeah, evaluates to that. You can also note that we did a binding up there. And more docs plus. Yeah, we totally want to make more documentation. Sweet. And then enum map set and voila, we have reused. So the variable that we bound up here is available in subsequent code blocks. So that's neat. And we can reevaluate them. And let's see if we change this one, so suddenly we have that. This one is marked as stale, and we have the option to just evaluate that one again. Let me know if you have questions around this, because I feel like I grok most of this at a basic level. Something I've heard that you can't do, and I should actually check if you can, is this stuff. I don't see why you couldn't, but I got the impression that you might not be able to. Foo. So let's make a module. Def. Hello. Do. So it can just output world and end. And we evaluate that, and that creates a module. I bet this will actually work even if I call it a later thing. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, yeah, someone in a Slack somewhere said that you could only use sort of anonymous functions and stuff, but that's not the case. Of course, it's probably nicer to have access to all your dependencies. So, but we have the Livebook code here, so let's take a look at what we actually have. So this is not a ton of dependencies. We have the earmark parser. We don't have your earmark itself, I guess. It's just the parser. We have Floki, bunch of that stuff. Do we have an HTTP client? Well, we do have the Erlang one. I know that because in Jose's video, he actually did pull down some data using HTTPC. I don't know the syntax of HTTPC or the API of HTTPC so well that I could do it by heart. But yeah, so I would love for my blog to be this sort of, you can run your samples. But honestly, you can't actually make this safe, because if someone can write Elixir, like run Elixir code on your environment, you're screwed. It's like that's literal remote code execution, and they can redefine basically anything. One thing that could, in the long term, make this possible to sort of run all client side is Lumen. Yeah, the small snippets only being part of a, or being part of a bigger thing is also like why you would need a lot of context. And it would have been neat to to sort of provide a locked down node that you can connect and run things on. What I can see myself potentially doing when I'm working, like when I'm adapting how I do my site anyway, is to provide sort of an iteration of each post that is like that you could download a live MD of the post, and then you can load it into a local Livebook if you like, and that way you could run them locally, or provide the example projects as a Livebook application. So if you clone down Noted, or if you clone down some other sort of project, the post would actually be runnable because all the dependencies are there. It would take some thinking to do it elegantly. I'm not entirely sure what that would be like. So is there anything in particular you're curious about how it works with this? I actually was planning on having someone else potentially on this call, just to have them also have access to the Livebook, because it does have Google Docs style typing, so it actually would allow multiple people to edit this module at the same time, for example, and just iterate on something. I'm actually working on a on a spec in Markdown that would be pretty neat to run in this way, sort of just use it as a kind of doc test, where the more you implement, the more of your Livebook will actually successfully evaluate. I wonder what it does on an error if I raise hello world. So I define the module, then I run that runtime error. Yeah, that's nice enough. So yeah, if there's anything in particular you want me to take a look at, don't hesitate to put it in the chat. So I'm a little bit curious about many different parts of how this is built. One of the things I did ask about in that thread was Delta, because I've worked with Quill.js, and I didn't know they were using Quill specifically, but I figured they would be using operational transform, or operational transformation, as it's called, for the collaborative thing. To allow multiple people to edit text at the same time, you need some sort of data structure and some sort of protocol to coordinate and make sure it's eventually consistent. And they have, so Quill.js provides a Delta format, and Livebook uses a subset of that because it only deals with plain text. So they have implemented a subset of those operations. And Jose mentioned that there is a library which implements, yeah, so here, also see text delta for complete implementation of the Delta specification. So that's probably an interesting project. Yes, please open it. which means that if you want to do collaborative text editing via a live view, I would definitely look at that, because then you just use the quill.js thing, and then you need to hook that into your live view a little bit, and then multiple people should be able to, you would sort of have to coordinate them. I don't know exactly how TextDelta does its thing, but I bet if you can integrate that with a gen server and have it be sort of a shared state for a single document and have multiple people edit it. So lots of potential there, very cool thing. And Livebook uses a subset of that. And then I was curious about live Markdown. So yeah, we have this. So that's a notebook file format used by Livebook. And so actually we should probably save this to file just so you can see how that works. Let's call this live stream. It creates a .md file. I like that they sort of implemented a save dialog here. It's charming. And just to do file write, or no, file dot read, live stream dot livemd. That should be it. All right, that gets it as string, but maybe we just want it to print. So there we go. So this is what it actually saves, which is just Markdown with some code block sections for Elixir. So there's nothing fancy in the format. It's all just what's being done with it. And this makes me very excited for like, oh, this is the kind of stuff I should be doing for my blog. This is super interesting to me. Just basic file formats, and really reusable. So it's documentation, it's runnable. Yeah, I find the approach very satisfying. Now, so currently the format straightforward, specifies the following. The file should have a leading heading 1 holding the notebook name. And Sophie just posted to the Beam Radio folks about well, Livebook. It's like, has anybody seen this yet? Yeah, the file should have a leading heading holding the notebook name. Every heading 2 starts a new section. Oh, now Stephen wants to know where I am. Does he not read Twitter? Come on. My dear Beam Radio folks, they're behind. They're not following my Twitter. So, good question, Marcel. I don't believe I'm on Elixir 1.12 yet, which isn't necessarily needed to do what you're saying. But in Elixir 1.12, you get mix install, which would mean that up here, I could go, oh, let's see, let's pull some dependencies. Mix.install, I want decimal, I want earmark, I want finch, I want, and so on. And that would bring in all your dependencies. That does not exist yet, or rather it only exists in Elixir 1.12. So I really, really need to get that, because it will also make that will also make it very, very easy to use Elixir for scripting suddenly. So very neat. But let's see. I was thinking of something. I see a Josh in the chat. Josh of Elixir Sips fame, and also Beam Radio. Welcome. Yeah, so what's a good dependency that can do a lot of fun stuff right away? So I'm running the production thing right now, but if I start the dev thing, let's see, make sure that one starts before I try playing. Oh, Octo Steve. I imagine that is our good GitHub buddy, Steven Nunez. Oh, I'm in the assets folder. That's never good. Don't spend time there. That's where all the NPM is. Yeah, okay, so I should still just be going to, if I go to localhost 4000, yeah, okay, I still have this. My computer is struggling a little bit under all I'm doing. You think the Goldsby is there as well? Yeah, he's been here before, so I would not be shocked. But also, he's being quiet if he is here. Open. Okay, double click, apparently. Did I entirely miss Goldsby, or is he subtweeting me? Is he subtweeting me? I'm sure he's subtweeting me. He's talking about me, not with me. It's typical. Typical. This is how feuds are persisted, I guess. Can't say it would start a feud, because the Swedes and the Danes have a feud since way, way back. Yeah, you. Hello, Gausby. Gausby. Yeah, something like that. Martin. So yeah, now I have the dev server running, and that seems to work. So arguably, we should just be able to pull in any old dependency, essentially. No, I don't have one top of mind, honestly, but we could prove the point just as well by adding a small Elixir block and going JSON encode my favorite string. These are a few of my favorite strings. Module JSON is not available. Right, so let's look at this, because I think, no, I thought it was, I had this icon I could fiddle with down there. Maybe it's here. Runtime. So Elixir standalone. This means I'm running a fresh new Elixir instance. But if I want to change it to the mix standalone, I can start it within a context of a mix project. So now I'm saying, go here, do it like this. Oh, then it does, it pulls the depths, it does the compile, connected successfully. Is it done? Can I play now? And then it encodes my favorite string. So yeah, that's how that works. Which essentially means you can, that's actually pretty neat, because you can then run a Livebook thing on your local machine. You don't have to run 10 of them. you can just point it at whatever mix project you're dealing with and do your live booking for that project, and you can save the live book in that project. But this is essentially a desktop application as far as you're concerned. So actually, let's try something around that. No, not there. There. So I wonder how it would do with sort of noted. So last week I was dealing with this project. Stop showing my entire hard drive. Open. Like, this is a project. There we go. That's how you open a folder. So we should be able to just connect this one to that. Yeah, okay, let's save it here. And do mix standalone noted. Connect. Runtime error, missing required environment variable. Yeah. Telegram bot name and stuff. I wonder how that's most easily resolved. So in this case, we're hitting some limits with configuration and pushing configuration into this. I wonder if it would pick up the environment variables if I actually start the live book with those environment variables. So I could source those. Let's see. Hopefully I won't expose my Telegram bot keys on stream. That would be ideal to not do, because that's no good. Credentials are secret for a reason. Yeah, if it does seem a little bit slow, that's probably more due to my computer encoding video and streaming it than any particular performance issues. Also, I'm running the dev server right now, which I imagine is also a little bit slower, or a fair bit slower than the production one. But yeah, I'll open that one. Now let's try to hook this up to my other project. Choose a runtime. So noted. Connect. So this should tell us whether it will pick up the environment variables of the thing. That seems like Postgres. So let's see, what should this mean to all of this? So it runs within the mix context. I don't think it necessarily starts the application, but I'm not sure. So in noted, we have notes that list notes, I think. List notes 1. Yeah, so maybe can we list them for user 1? Cool. Sweet. Yeah, so this is an existing Elixir project I have, which is McBull is currently helping me with. So he'll recognize some of this. And yeah, I just had to add the environment variables required to start the damn thing, since it integrates with Telegram. And then it ran, which is neat. I like it. So anything else in particular people would like to see for what this does? I'm actually, so the mind sort of races with the possibilities, because this feels like it can do a lot of fun stuff. And I think there are ways to adapt what this does in ways that will, oh, look at this, shortcuts, switch to insert mode, navigation mode. Yeah, he did say it had Vim style shortcuts, so delete cell, focus previous cell, evaluate cell, evaluate section, insert Elixir cell above, insert Elixir cell below. Okay. So if I hit N, no matches for struct. That's disappointing. Escape, switch back to so I should be able to, I don't know, man. Oh, wait, maybe I have a sort of Vimium extension running. That might actually not be great for this site. Can I just, I actually don't use it, so I can remove it. Yeah, go away. Ta-da! Okay, and then there was something for adding Markdown as well. What was that? M. Writing some text. Yeah. So honestly, this is not so bad as just a CMS sort of deal. So, and I don't think it's frivolous to have added these keyboard shortcuts, because no one will use this as a serious work tool if they can't eventually get very fast with it. So I think it's a good thing to do, especially if they want to actively use it. And I think that's the idea. I'm super curious to see how adoption will look like, because they're building super interesting and very powerful tools. And I don't know how willing people are to move across languages. If you have thoughts on that, I'm super curious. Because I don't work in the ML space specifically, and I haven't really done much around it. I've done some orchestrating of machine learning stuff, but I haven't done anything that touches the actual notebooks and all of that. So if you have a hunch whether it will actually see some action, I'm super curious to hear, because NX seems very ambitious, and this Livebook thing seems like, I don't know all the features of Jupyter Notebook. I'm sure it has a lot of stuff that's wild and incredibly strong, but this is definitely a hell of a thing, and I think it provides some stuff that they can't do. For one thing, I know Isaac said that that Jupyter Notebooks cannot do collaboration, and this does it sort of trivially, which is an interesting thing, and I think that's a lot of thanks to being Elixir. So wait, Livebook CLI? I'm curious. task, server, usage, Livebook server, port, no token. So I'm guessing this is just for conveniently starting it and using it as non-Elixirist. Chat is a little bit quiet, so I'm curious if you're still there. It says there's about 10 of you. So, but yeah, if you want an example of the structure of a live view, hey NTS, hey Marcel, glad you're around. I wonder if my wife is watching. She said she might. But if you want an example of a live view application, hello McPool, then this should definitely be one. I don't know if this will line up with what I would necessarily do for structuring a live view application, but I tend to stay pretty close to what it generates by default. So especially since I haven't built particularly big ones. And then all of this seems commonplace to me. I like the CLI one as an option to Livebook and Livebook Web. But I bet there are some additional opinions in the Phoenix Live View, so Programming Phoenix Live View book that Bruce and Sophie are putting together. I bet they have some choice additional thinking on structure. Me, I tend to just go for it. I just build with what I have. I'm very pleased to see that they've not taken my tack. I always end up with just a page live as my first live view because that's what it generates by default, and I just build in that. And I really should just rename it. So you'll see that Noted definitely has one of those, and it really should be renamed. But if we check, where are we on the route? So this is what they call a session. So that makes sense. It's a collaboration session. It's not just opening the document. It sort of indicates an ongoing thing. So let's look at what that does. So on mounting this session, you have a session ID. Apparently you have a session ID going into it, which I think is a little bit surprising, but sure, it's probably fine. You check if the session exists in the session supervisor, and if it does, you check if your socket is connected, and then you register the client and subscribe. You subscribe to session updates for that session ID. Cool. And you register yourself as a client, which makes sense. If you are not connected, and this connected thing is a live view thing that I have glossed over when I worked with live view. But that's the distinction, I think, between when you're rendering the initial non-WebSockety, non-live page and when you're actually starting the live view. So I'm probably wasting a subscribe on a bunch of my sites, or rather the few live views I've built so far, by just doing this without checking if it's connected. I'll live. Then platform from socket. I don't know. I'm guessing that has to do with what runtime it's using. Something we could look at. It assigns the platform, it assigns the session ID, it assigns the data view. It got the data there. Yeah, data. Cool. Oh, you get some data as you register as a client. That's nice. Assign private data. Assign private. I need to take a look at that because I'm not entirely sure what that's about. Is that stuff that does not go into the assigns for the template, so it's not available there, or is that something else? It might be that that's hidden from the template. I'm not sure. And then it allows uploads. Can I add images? I wonder where it uses the uploads. Ins. Yeah, and if the session does not exist, it will redirect to the starting page. So I'm guessing the session is generated probably as a plug or something before this happens. So the session ID coming in is probably assigned in a plug or something. Assign private. Puts the given assigns in socket private, ensure they're not used for rendering. Yeah, fair enough. That was pretty much what I expected. So that's the internal state of the data, while this is the public view of the data. Platform from socket, Okay, and here we have the renders. So they don't use a separate template, which I think is interesting. Templates, layout. They just keep it in this one. Huh. Yeah, sure. I think the common case is sort of that you have a separate file, but yeah, this truly does make the live view a single file thing. Then it renders a bunch of stuff. And as I was saying, if you want me to look at anything in particular, do tell me. Otherwise, I will just be faffing about in this way. Yeah, so they're doing some of this stuff I recognize. Content editable hooks. So this is an editable H1, this one. And if you do a content editable, those don't integrate with HTML forms at all, which is unfortunate because so this is what I keep running into whenever I want to do progressive enhancement, where you don't actually require JavaScript to do anything, and you just want to do it via the old school ways. Then you're limited to a text area. You absolutely have to use a text area, and text areas have a lot of limitations because a content editable is not a form and it's not visible to a form, and the only way to pull the data out of it is JavaScript, as far as I know. And to do that here they have, so blur, which is like when you deselect this, it will do thing, and it will use the Phoenix hook content editable, because the hook content editable probably tells it how to operate with one of these elements. Oh yeah, all of this is done with Tailwind, right? I didn't even think about it because I usually use it. But yeah, so yeah, this is Tailwind CSS, and as you can see, it's a little bit messy. Like the classes are messy, but all the information. Yes, petal stack. It is the petal stack. I do wonder if they use Alpine. I'm not sure. We should check. They might not actually use any client-side stuff, which I would consider quite fine. Yeah, doesn't seem like they use Alpine, but they're using Tailwind. I wonder if they've switched in the Tailwind yet. Yes, they have, because otherwise everything is slow and annoying. They're still using Webpack, which I just recently discussed with good folks that we want to look at how to not use because it's not the best. Yeah, I agree, Marcel. It's interesting that they use it for this. I don't think there's anything else that has nearly that level of adoption, though. Right now, it's like I don't know anyone that would say like, no, we use Bootstrap, and beyond Bootstrap, which had this immense market penetration in that space for sort of a UI frameworky thing. Beyond that, there's like what's that called? Karma? No. Chakra and Bulma, and like there are a ton of semi-successful ones, or not like, but nothing is of the size that Bootstrap was. Nothing is dominant right now, besides Tailwind, which is not a UI component-y framework. It's a CSS framework. CSS, yeah, it's a CSS framework, I guess. CSS system, CSS tooling, whatever. And it's probably the most agreed upon tool right now, and it's fairly controversial still, but I think it has more adoption than anything else, significantly more adoption than anything else. And you don't have to use anything in particular. You could just do it with normal CSS or do it with Sass or whatever. But apparently they've chosen Tailwind, which I think is a perfectly fine choice. It makes sense. It seems to have traction in the community overall. And I think it lines up nicely. So if we check a single component, what does a cell component look like? Data cell, render cell content. So if it's type Markdown, so science. And if it's Elixir, yeah. So there's a lot of templating here and stuff, but none of it's particularly complex. I don't think it's anything weird about it. There's very few things that are surprising in this system so far, and I think that speaks well of the workflow of LiveView. So I've done a few smaller LiveView projects where I've built myself something fun with LiveView, and that has led me to do enough that this feels understandable. I can follow how this fits together without much issue, and I think that's a good sign. And I think it's really good that there's finally a good LiveView project out there that's from sort of Dashbit and has this touch of official to it. Yeah. Anyway, I guess I have to end this live stream as well. As always, it's been very nice to have some people drop by, and I look forward to doing one of these next week. That's the plan. It seemed like the votes were in favor of doing some membrane framework, which I think is a mighty good choice. There was recently a Thinking Elixir podcast episode with Marcin, whose surname I currently forget, but Marcin, who's on one of the developers of Membrane. And maybe we'll do a live stream about building live streams. I'm not sure what we'll end up with. I think I'll have to put some thought into that stuff up front, because I think there's a bit of compile time as things I need to be concerned about with doing things with Membrane. So I should probably do some research before sitting down. This I've basically started once, and then I could just do it again. But please do share this around. Actually, Twitch should be publishing a VOD of this conversation and this stream. So I will probably shop that around and show it to people and make it available to people. So feel free to help me share that if you thought this was a useful run-through by someone only roughly familiar with the project. But thanks for dropping by, and I hope to see you all next time. And if you're curious about, if you don't know who I am at all and curious about what I do, go to underyorda.io so you can see my logo there. Add a .io at the end and you'll find my website. It should give a rough idea of what I do. All right, take care. Have a good weekend, y'all.